I'm excited to announce that Zoe Eth will be speaking with us for the next half hour. Just to let you guys know how it will go. Zoe will take 15 to 20 minutes to run through a presentation with you guys. She will be talking about her own personal experience as a player, and then she'll be talking about her coaching experience. She started, just to let you guys know, she started at a school in New York at William Smith College, where she was a player. She then transitioned into a graduate assistant. Zoe's now with Gustavus Adolphus College, which is out of St. Peter, Minnesota, and competes in the MIAC at a Division III level. Following her presentation, some of you have sent in some questions, so we will take time at the end to ask her a few questions. If you think of any more questions along the way, please feel free to reach out to Ben throughout the presentation. So with that, I would like to introduce Zoe.
Let's get this started. So kind of like Brady said, I'm currently the GAC assistant, and I am an East Coast transplant. So I grew up in the Boston area, went to school in upstate New York. I'm in my second year now, and super interesting start to the second year with the pandemic going on. And to kind of outline the presentation, I'll start with my own personal college experience, kind of go through the nuts and bolts of college recruiting, and why it's really, the recruiting process is so important. And then talk to you a little bit about my own college recruitment experience. And we'll try and fit that all in 20 minutes or so, hopefully a little bit less, so we have plenty of time for questions. So the college experience in one word is absolutely amazing. In 2 words, or in another word, it's pretty demanding. So the school I landed at was William Smith, super competitive program. Over the past, decade or so, it's typically in the top 5 or 10 Division III schools for women's soccer in the nation. And first year was, a total learning curve. The college game is faster. It is way more physical and a lot more tactical. And so similar to like everyone's experience, the first year, I thought I had it all together. I thought I was really well prepared. And I did play at a super competitive club, which set me up super well, but it was all about development that first year. Sophomore year, had a year under my belt, was really confident with that. That sophomore year in 2013 really proved and showed why having heart, having a lot of fight, and having a team that is similar to a family, you can hit unreal goals. That year we actually won the Division III National Championship. We flew down to San Antonio, Texas, and played 2 games. San Antonio, I think, is going to be nice and hot. It was actually nice and cold for us. And we really came together, and that was a truly special experience. I blacked out a lot of the final game, to be honest. But from the moments I do remember, it was incredible. And like, it was a whole culmination of, every single day in the off season, really pushing ourselves, every single day during the summer, of getting in those workouts, of getting in a little bit of extra technical work when we could. Then every single practice, even the ones that were super cold and rainy and didn't, maybe we didn't want to be there for one reason or another, but they all came together in, a truly special experience. And so my junior year was interesting, to say the least. I started off, being really leading by example on the field. About 2/3 of the way through, I actually tore my right ACL. Yeah, not fun at all. I did 2 in high school, and then my 3rd one in college. Like I said, 2/3 of the way through that season, so I kind of knew writing on the wall, and really struggled, to be honest, of how do I make a positive impact on the team without being on the field. So I sat down every single day with my head coach, and we worked through how to make that positive impact without being able to step on the field. And it really, that experience truly, introduced me to the coaching world. Basically my senior year, yes, I came back. I wasn't the same player though. And so my head coach really let me take on a student coaching role, and I absolutely fell in love with it. That's a big reason why I'm here today. And, you know, you want to find a program where you're going to thrive on and off the field, where you're going to be pushed really hard. And, you know, that's why the recruiting experience is so important. It is a monster in itself, but it is so important so you do find that right fit, that you hear a lot, find the right fit, find the right fit. But it's so important to kind of do our due diligence. And so now we're going to hop into like a lot of the nuts and bolts, things to think about when we're starting off our process, when we're in the middle and towards the end, things that we can ask, you know, whether it's admissions counselors, coaches, players, that kind of thing throughout. So things to think about: academics, you know, requirements, or, you know, general, you know, GPA standard, academic standards. Do they have majors you're interested in? The program research is absolutely key here. What is their conference like? Is it a really strong conference? What is their non-conference game schedule typically like? You know, has the coach really developed the program in the time that they've been there? Or how long has the coach been there? Where are they traveling? That kind of thing. There are, you know, Division 1, 2, and 3, NAIA, tons of different divisions. Everyone can, at every division, you're going to find a competitive place that, you know, you can play. But a really important key is to be honest with yourself and to have those honest conversations with your current coaches. And to also, you know, really push yourself too. You know, location, do we want to stay in Minnesota, in the region, other areas of the country? Again, research is, you know, really important to find different, you know, what are the rosters look like? Are players from different parts of the country? Are they from specific areas? That kind of thing. Location, you know, is it more rural? Is the size really big? Is it really small? Social life and whatnot. So do students, you know, are they only going to class and then sitting in their dorm room, or are they getting really involved on campus? Are they, you know, going home on the weekends, or is that true community feel there where, you know, campus is providing a lot of activities, that kind of thing. You know, admission standards again, and then costs. So I'm a Division 3 kid, kind of through and through. So you might hear a little bit more of the Division 3 side of things tonight. But, you know, what does the average financial aid package look like for students? Are there merit scholarships? That kind of thing. So just a quick overview of things to kind of think about. And now if we like kind of hop into a little bit more detailed, well, this is like the nuts and bolts part, so we'll kind of fly through. But if you have questions, you know, we can grab them all at the end. So what are the different degrees offered? And it's okay to not know. A lot of people feel like they have to know what they're, you know, gonna major in coming into college, and undecided is like the most common major coming into college. Can you switch majors? Does a school have a strong 4-year graduation rate? What is the faculty ratio? If it's really small, you know you can develop a really personal relationship with your faculty. Or is it really big and we're gonna feel maybe like a number in a, you know, a massive lecture hall? Does this school have, you know, really strong internship program with career services or research opportunities if we're more in the sciences? A lot of schools will kind of post that in their different major, you know, website pages. And so kind of clicking through those, see if they look interesting. Let's see, does the school have, you know, tutors and support services? So, you know, tutors in different areas, writing fellows, what does a team do? So we, for example, we have study hall for all of our first year class during that first semester on campus, so that they can really adjust to college academics, because they are so different. You know, every day in college looks a little bit different. Whether we have labs, meeting with professors, you're not going to have the same class every single day, that kind of thing. And then another important thing, can you major in anything on that team? There are some schools where, you know, they might limit what, you know, their players can study. We don't, but that's an important question to, you know, ask and have that knowledge. Skip right through. So kind of once again, what are those admission standards? Do they line up with your grades? Are they test optional? So for example, we are test optional, where if your ACT, SAT kind of lines up with your grade point average, great. And if it doesn't reflect who you are as a student, then for us, you don't have to submit that. You know, what are our dates and deadlines and different types of applications? Is it early action versus early decision? Rolling admissions, that kind of thing. Again, costs can look at merit-based scholarships, so those more academic-based scholarships. You know, is the school using FAFSA and CSS profile, or one or the other, or both? And then, you know, that can get really overwhelming, especially when we create that first list of maybe, you know, anywhere from like 5 to 10 schools. And so actually kind of gridding it out is really helpful. It's something I did of, you know, when I had my first list of, you know, mapping out, you know, type of application, early decision, early action, what's the deadline for those, and what's the deadline for merit-based scholarships, that kind of thing. And so kind of once again, looking at the student life, different locations, campus size, community feel is important. You know, are people really looking to spend time with one another, or is it kind of on your own? Once again, are people leaving on the weekends, or you know, are people going to sporting events, different games? Are we getting involved in extracurricular activities? Are intramurals a big thing? Intramurals are hugely competitive here, not during COVID times, but I think intramural volleyball here is one of the most competitive things that our team gets really hyped up for. A lot of the, maybe except for the volleyball team, the varsity volleyball team, but a lot of you know, athletes here love to compete in all the different intramurals. Now we get to more of the fun stuff. So, soccer program, probably one of the big things that we're looking for, you know, in the different institutions that we start looking at. So what are the coaches' backgrounds? What are they like as people? What are their goals for the program? You know, how are they communicating with you and your parents? How are they communicating with the team? That's all important to, you know, feel out, but also ask those questions. A really big thing is philosophy. So what is the philosophy for the program, and what maybe is their soccer philosophy? What's the team like? Are they really welcoming? Are they getting involved in other things? When you get to spend time with them, are they asking you questions? Those are all really important. Can you see them being your teammates for the next 4 years? Recruiting steps is really important to ask that question. I think most programs are, you know, will have slightly different recruiting steps, but overall, every single program is going to want to see you play multiple times. We want to see you develop from the first time we see you to, you know, definitely during your junior spring, and even that senior fall, in a variety of different games too. So, you know, with Boreal, you guys are playing super competitive tournaments and games and whatnot. And so seeing you in really competitive environments, and if you go to ID clinics, it'll be really important to reach out and start that communication process nice and early. What's the yearly schedule look like? What's the commitment in the off season? For us, you know, we're, as a D3 institution, our off season kind of ranges from post Thanksgiving to about April. And during that time, you know, our players are, you know, lifting, you know, 3 times per week. They're playing futsal 3 times per week, and it's all player driven. We can start our non-traditional off season with the coaching staff for 5 weeks, typically from April to May, where we're practicing with our team 3 times per week. And so that does look different for every program, sometimes based on conference, sometimes based on institutions. And so, you know, seeing what the team commitment is like is really important. What are the facilities like too? You know, are they sharing one, is every program sharing one field? Are they not? What's the athletic building like? What's the academic buildings like? What are the dorms like? That kind of thing are all, you know, really important to kind of go into that. So now even more specifically, Gusty soccer. Our overall, when we talk with our recruits coming to campus, we're pretty good talkers, both of us, myself and the head coach. So, we could go on forever, but I'll kind of hit those bullet points nice and quick. Our overall philosophy is to be the best we can be in all areas of our lives. That's something that we, really care, really developing all of our players into, not only really strong players on our team, but also really strong people and individuals. And so to do that, it's pretty unique to our program, but when we're in season, we meet with every single player on an individual level every other week to really continuously build on our, that foundational trust and to build really strong relationships with every single player. We're going to push you really hard outside of your comfort zone, but you need to be able to trust that we have your back for you to really continuously develop to grow. And so that's something, we want every single player to hit their max potential. And, we feel it's really important for our players to get to know us and for us to get to know our players on that individual level. Our soccer philosophy, we call it the Gusty tempo. It's very possession-based soccer. We feel like that's the best type of soccer to play. It'll bring us success at the highest level as well. That really, our soccer philosophy is how we build out our practices. And so we're working on our tempo, we're working on our speed of play, we're putting our players in really tight possession areas. So you have to make decisions super quick. Then we'll build out to bigger possession games where, you can make a lot of different decisions and is it the right one? Academically, our team is right around a 3.65 GPA, typically every year, and that's with about 28 players on our roster. They are studying all different subjects. We have a handful in the sciences, but they're kind of all over the map. And something that we love, it makes our jobs really interesting because we get to learn new things every day. Community service is definitely another pillar of our program. We're hitting about 400 to 500 team community service hours per year. We also, as really competitive people, there's a team community service award that our athletic department, hands out every year, and we are on a 5-year run. And so our players find different opportunities kind of throughout the whole year, maybe a little bit less when we're in season during the fall. But they're over the summer, they're trying to get together once or twice. During the winter, we're holding youth clinics, volunteering, Special Olympics, all these different types of opportunities to really get out there, because we, as athletes, we are role models, and we really want to embrace that and give back to not only, the Gustavus community, but also the greater St. Peter community. And kind of like I said at the beginning, but personal development is huge for us. We're really going to push our players. And we also, we host a 8-week leadership academy, typically every spring. It's voluntary, but, we want our players to develop into leaders. So when they leave Gustavus after, their 4 years, they're going to be leaders in whatever community they join next. We feel it's really important to really, hone our leadership skills and be authentic to who we are as individuals, but also be able to work obviously as a team and as a program as well. And so when, at the end of the day, what really matters to you? That's like the epitome of college recruiting, is what truly matters to you. What are your non-negotiables? For me, it was a competitive soccer program. And after touring a lot of different campuses, so I toured, really big Division I campuses and a handful of smaller, liberal art universities. And I really felt that smaller community was where I would thrive the most. And so those were my 2 non-negotiables. Like I said, I visited a ton of different schools. I was talking to D1 schools, and after, really recognizing that I wouldn't thrive in that environment, I decided that Division III was, the right place for me. I did a lot of visits. I was able to visit the school I ended up going to about 3 times. One was kind of random on my own. And then I did a couple others, and what sealed the deal was my overnight. That's going to be a really important visit where you're going to spend a lot of time with the team. You're going to see them probably practice and probably play in a game, and really learn how the coaches, interact with them during the locker room time, during warm-ups, after the game, that kind of thing. And, as a team really coming together in all different areas. And communication was huge for me. So like I mentioned, kind of towards the very beginning, I tore my ACL twice in high school. And I tore my first one my junior spring, which is really important timing. And so a lot of schools I was talking to stopped talking to me at that point. But the school I went to, William Smith, they kept talking to me. I kept talking to them. They were really supportive of me, getting through rehab and whatnot. And I was a recruit. I wasn't, committed to them at that point. But that went a really long way. And so communication, letting coaches know where you're at, what games you're playing in is so, so, so important. And, it goes a huge way on kind of both ends. For us, we now as a college coach, we know that you're interested in our institution and our program, but also for you. Are they communicating a lot with you? Or are they getting in touch every once in a while, that kind of thing. So in conclusion, communication is huge. Really finding a lot of different programs to reach out to is super important to start, and finding what really matters to you. What are those non-negotiables? And making the most of it. Like I said at the very, very beginning, when you're bought into the process of college soccer and bought into that development in the program and the team, you're going to find success both on and off the field. It's an amazing experience. We, the head coach and I talk about our experiences a lot. And yeah, recruiting process is kind of a handful, but it's so, so, so important so that you can find a place where you're going to thrive.
That was great, Zoe. Thank you so much. So a few questions that players sent in that I just wanted to touch on. So this one, the first one, is one that I'm going to ask on behalf of my team because it's the most asked question through the last 2 years. And I didn't really know how to answer it for them. So, and I think this applies to a lot of players that are growing up in this age where they communicate differently to their peers than they do to college coaches. So how important is it when you start talking to a coach to keep the dialogue open and not only talk about soccer and the prospect of coming to a school, but also like talking to them just about life and just like random casual conversations, I guess.
Yeah, I'm losing my voice now. No, it's super important. You're going to find a lot what coaches really look for in recruits, probably mostly based in their philosophies. Whether it's soccer, probably both like program and soccer-based philosophies. So for us, for example, we really want to get to know our recruits. We think, and that a lot of getting to know one another is through those kind of random conversations about life, about, what do you like to do on the week? What do you like to do, outside of school and soccer? What's your family like? That kind of thing. And it kind of falls into that piece of our philosophy of, being the best we can be in all areas of our life. And you also want to get to know the coaches too. You want to get to know, do they really care about me as a person? Or am I just that athlete to them?
Thank you. So just to our players too, like, when you go in and you have that initial conversation to a coach, I think there's going to be expectations that you carry a conversation and you can ask questions and you can be analytical and don't just go in there and say like giggle and laugh and then just leave it at that. Like have that conversation. So my next question, or the first question that was asked by a player. So and this I think will be good for you because if you guys don't know, Zoe's constantly recruiting or out at the field. So what's something that like you would see or you would observe in a soccer game where you would just be like, okay, that wasn't good? Specifically like technical and tactical, not like work rate or mentality. What's like a skill or like a decision making process that you would see where you would then question that player, I guess?
It's a really good question. I mean, for us, we want to see if our recruits are looking to play and can play possession style soccer. And so if it's a consistent, just kind of kicking the ball one time because we're not reading the game, a high soccer IQ is really important to us. And so that would be an example of if we're just kicking it because we're not reading the game, that might be like, we might put a couple of question marks there. But it's different than we're reading the game and we need to relieve pressure, or there's a great opportunity to play ball over the top because the back line is super high and flat, and so recognizing those differences. But if we're not reading the game, then we might, like I said, add a couple question marks.
So just to build off that, then for you guys, Gustavus, since your style of play is more possession driven, do you specifically look for players then that would fit that mold?
Yes, I mean, to an extent, yes. But if you're, driving at people because we're in a 1v1 situation, yeah. But if we can and want to play possession, that's great.
Okay. You hit on this a little bit in your presentation. You had said that you were looking at Division I schools all the way through Division III schools. And obviously for you is a little bit different because you had an injury. But just to kind of quickly, and I know you could spend probably 15 minutes on this, but just to kind of quickly itemize like the differences between a Division I, Division II, and Division III. If you could broad generalize it, how would you go about identifying the differences?
I think for Division III, you're going to get that full college experience. You're going to be able to study abroad, play at a super high level as well. Division II and I, I might lump together time-wise, but you're going to have a lot more off-season coach involvement. And that I think is the biggest difference where, like I said, our off season at a Division III institution is limited to 5 weeks. That is also dependent on conference. So we are allowed 16 touches essentially during our non-traditional season. Typically that falls April through halfway through May. Division II and III, you're going to get, basically when you come back from spring or winter break, you're working with the coaches from that point forward. You're probably coming into preseason a little bit earlier too. So I think coach involvement might be the biggest difference.
That's a great answer. So a player who has been recently injured kind of through her recruiting process asked, and hopefully it's relatable to you. And I guess this goes for everyone because you honestly don't know what could happen. But going through a recruiting process, how are injuries perceived and kind of how would you navigate obstacles like injuries?
Yeah, they're not fun for anyone. I think the biggest thing is, really taking, for example, ACL, you're out for 6 months, but you're going to learn a lot about yourself. And for us, continuously hearing about, our rehab updates or how you are pushing yourself without getting hurt again. So it comes back to communication again of, what's our timeline for back to play? How are we doing? We're probably gonna, really make sure that that first year, whether it's at Gustavus or whatever school, you're really developing and gaining all that confidence back into the player who you are. And a big thing is, setting a lot of mini goals for ourselves. So, we don't get too frustrated.
Was it hard for you when you went through like getting injured your junior year?
Yeah. It wasn't great timing. It was a time where, you're getting seen a lot, especially for, Division III. And it kind of felt like a little dead period of, well, that's too bad. But setting those mini goals really helped me feel like I was accomplishing things, even though my team was playing in games and whatnot. I was able to, walk for 30 minutes without my knee really hurting, that kind of thing. And so being okay with those mini goals and feeling really good about them is really, really important, especially coming back from, significant injuries.
Okay. So when players get to that level where they're engaging in consistent communication or they're attempting to reach out to coaches, how would they know, or what are good indications that a coach is interested, or that, I guess we'll leave it at that. How would a player know if a coach is interested then?
I think pretty consistent communication back and forth. I will say, our inboxes do get flooded. And so if we lose an email, don't get discouraged, follow up. And then if we're, coming to a lot of your games, follow up after your games and, ask for feedback. Looking at right now during COVID, we've all learned how to do virtual visits to the max over Zoom and whatnot. And so, if we're getting invited to those and to campus visits and for overnights as we get older, that's a pretty good indication that, you're pretty high on that recruitment list.
Okay, good. I got two more questions for you. So just to kind of build off that last answer. So what we knew as the college recruiting process before COVID was different. So now we're operating under different rules. What is something that you would tell our players during kind of the next year as we figure out this? What's something that's changed or that they should kind of adjust to help increase their exposure or to help just get exposure, I guess?
Yeah, I think, and it's totally dependent on the school, but some schools are really limited to how often we can recruit and where we can recruit, whether it's like a mile radius from our campus. And so, we're trying to get to as many games as possible, but, local tournaments, local ID clinics, I think are going to be way more popular now. And also like tournaments are being pretty good at doing virtual versions of everything. But if there's a school that you really want to consider you and that you're really interested in, I think even more quick ones, but even more highlight reels will become a lot more popular because we just can't get to, maybe that Indianapolis tournament or the Kansas City tournaments right now, because and again, it depends on the school, but some schools are really limited in where we can go. And so quick little highlight videos from those tournaments and games, I think will be a lot more popular, even more than they were previously.
That's a great answer. Thank you. So my final question, just to ask you to be introspective. So since you were a high level player, presumably through like your high school or even middle school age, going back in time, what's something that you would have just reminded yourself or given yourself the knowledge that you have now, I guess?
I think I'll do like one soccer, one non-soccer thing. I think soccer-wise, I love technical work, but I grew to love it. And I wish I had really loved it as a younger player. It can be viewed as tedious and not the most fun, but it helped so much when I really, dedicated to, even doing like 20-minute sessions of getting a, 500 plus touches on the ball. That helped my college game so much more. And so I wish I had dedicated that amount of time, in high school, where, I really could have felt super confident on the ball, that ball mastery level. It doesn't have to be hours and hours and hours. It's quick 20-minute sessions at a really high level, goes super, super far. One non-soccer thing is, I think I've mentioned it, but the process is so important to buy into. We can get to, whether it's high school, maybe it's a higher level in club, we can get to a newer team, or really anywhere. And, maybe it might be a little overwhelming, but if we buy into the process of developing, of learning, different styles, different types of games, that's really going to help us grow as not only players, but as people as well. It's really buying into that growth mindset rather than getting frustrated with the process and maybe taking steps backwards or getting stuck. And so the process is so, so, so important. We preach it all the time here. And it's really hard. It's really hard to, show up and feel super ready. And then maybe not see results right away, but it's buying into the process that down the line will help us tremendously.
Well, thank you so much, Zoe. I appreciate it. I just want to say thank you to everyone that was able to attend. It just shows that the growth of our team, or the growth of our club rather, with 76 participants is amazing. So I hope that everyone was able to learn something, and that if you see Zoe down the road, whether she's at a game or whether you go visit Gustavus, that you reference this and you make sure to say hi to her. So thank you everyone for attending. Thank you, Zoe. And I will see everyone very soon. So thank you guys. Bye.
Bye, everyone.